All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Coffee Q&A, your daily coffee Q&A here, weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, Jay. Welcome to the show. It is July 24th, almost the end of July. Gosh, can you believe that? But one of the things here in Baltimore that's really special about the summertime is that, of course, we have a lot of agriculture, there's a lot of harvesting going on. And one of the great things about this is that there's lovely peaches. And peaches in Baltimore are really popular around this time of year because they're just coming into the fields. They're super fresh and they're really tasty. And so if we rewind about 100 years ago or so to the olden days, well, actually maybe more like 130 years ago, back 100, maybe even 150 years ago into the 1800s, there was something that started here called the Baltimore peach cake. And this is a peach cake that's different than peach cakes you might find in other parts of the country. These types of peach cakes were thought to have brought in by German immigrants to the Baltimore area who started bakeries. There's a lot of bakeries that started in the Baltimore area in the 1800s and into the 1900s. A lot of places that we would consider old school bakeries. Now, of course, most of those are gone now. Mom's here with us. What's going on? Good morning to you, Mom. Brian, good to see you. Rusty, good morning to you as well. So a lot of these old school bakeries have, of course, gone to the wayside. Some of my favorite, there's a place called New System Bakery that was in the neighborhood of Hamden where we had our shop. They went away quite a number of years ago, but they would make things like these chocolate-covered cinnamon rolls that were just delicious. And a lot of old school bakers made these really delicious stuff that's very different than the new school. The new school are these, and Baltimore is filled with new school bakeries. A lot of places that are doing laminated doughs. They're doing other types of European style pastries, Asian style pastries, like maybe Korean and Japanese interpretations of French viennoiserie, right? So things like that are very popular today. Very nice artisanal crafts-based kind of bakeries, and very few of it school, right? The old school bakeries are the kind of places that I used to go to when I was growing up. And I grew up in a very working class, blue collar kind of part of Baltimore, the Patapsco Avenue area and the Arbutus area of Baltimore, which are very like working class areas. So I grew up in those areas, and that was what I'm used to. And like as far as bakeries and food stuff, something like that. So I have a lot of experiences in my early childhood where boxed macaroni and cheese and these old school like yeasted donuts, I just love that stuff. I still love it today, right? As much as I may enjoy a beautiful viennoiserie from a nice patisserie, I also love simple raised yeasted donuts, right? Now, because it's this time of year, this is when peach cake comes out. And peach cake here is a little bit different. They're taking yeasted dough, very simple type of preparation. What's really looking for is very fresh and ripe tomato, cherries. Peaches. You could do the same with both. And they're making a sweet yeasted dough. They're of course kneading it, letting it rise, and then putting it out into a baking tray, lining it with peaches, and then just baking it, probably 350 degrees. I do have a recipe from a place called Old Line Plate in the description below. You can check it out if you want. There's a little bit of the history as well. Like I said, today there's only a few bakeries left. There's a place called Fenwick. There's a place called Herman's, which the owners of Herman's, when I was in high school, their daughter, I kind of had a crush on her. But there's Herman's, there's Fenwick, there is one other one that I'm thinking of that I can't. The place, if you look at, from one of the videos that I have on the channel with the what do you call it? With the pour over brewer the Stanley pour over. That one, I had the big donut. Fenwick, that's from Fenwick, right? Yeah, Woodley, Fenwick, Woodley, Herman's, and the one that's actually closer to where I live is a place called Simon's. And Simon's is a place that started in the city, and then eventually in the last 50 so years moved to the county. And they still continued their traditions. And Mr. Simon was there all the time. I saw him many, many years. He finally passed away about a year ago or so. And a new owner came on board. And the new owner has been a little bit coy about identifying themselves. I don't really understand why. I mean, as long as they're keeping the old school traditions, I don't know what the issue is. Maybe I don't really understand it. But still, even though the ownership changed, very consistent product, very old school yeasted kind of stuff. Like I mean, very old school stuff. And so you're going to see that in a moment. Good morning, Peter. How are you? 30 minutes to midnight here. Oh, yes, I know. It's so late for you there. And Dan, good morning to you as well. So the peach cake. Now you go there and like they actually will. So what these do, they take the bread, they take the dough, spread it out onto a baking sheet, like a full size pan sheet, and then they'll line it with slices of peaches, and then bake it off probably about 350 degrees. You don't want to go too hot with it, right? Otherwise it tends to dry it out. And this is kind of how it comes. They actually put them in very large slices. Like you can get this bakery, Simon's, will do little danishes with the peaches. So it's kind of like a mini with a little bit sweeter, a little bit softer dough, because their Danish dough is a little bit on the softer side than the actual dough they're using for the peach cake. But it is very nice. Let's have a look at it. This is the bakery box that it comes in. And I don't know what it is about bakeries, but I've already opened it. But whatever, I don't know if you guys have this in your area, but bakeries must have some kind of conspiracy with their tape, because their tape is always a pain in the butt to take off. And I'm just like the clerk that did not tape both sides. Like sometimes they'll put 3 pieces of tape, and then it just, like, this tape is so hard to peel off. Like if you're used to using Scotch tape, it's easy. Like you just kind of cut through it with your finger. This one you can't do it. Like this whatever industrial baker's tape. Like this is something that I think bakers are conspiring against us consumers to make sure that it doesn't open. All right, so let's have a look here. Here it is, the peach cake. Very, very simple kind of peach cake. As you can see, this one has a bit of a glaze. It's probably an apricot glaze. So really simple. You take the dough, you make the dough, put it onto your sheet tray, and then you're layering your peaches, your fresh peach slices, and these are from a local farm, I'm sure. And then you're baking it off. And then this time, this bakery, they'll put a glaze. I'm going to presume it's some kind of apricot style glaze. Yeah, pretty much. And so that's kind of a really classic way of doing it. Now, the old school way of doing it is not to have glaze at all. But, each bakery does its own. And, it's a fairly simple dish made of simple ingredients to show off a very simple type of fruit. We want to show the highlight of we want to highlight the peaches at the zenith of their ripeness, right? And that's really the key, I think. And so we're going to cut into this. Oh, actually, we're going to brew coffee and have it with it. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. The peach cake here in Baltimore. If you're interested in trying to make some for yourself, there is the recipe that I put in the link. That's a recipe from 1958. That's what the lady that runs the Old Line Plate says. It's a 1958 recipe, so very, very old school classic. Basically taking lukewarm milk with a little bit of sugar, some salt, a little bit of yeast and you want the warm milk, because the warm milk and the sugar is going to help to activate that yeast and really get it going, right? Egg, a little bit of shortening, and then some flour, and you mix that all together. Bring it, let it hydrate, let it rise, punch it down, roll, press it out, add your peaches into the oven, pull it out, do the glaze, you're done. It's very, very simple, a great and easy way to do it. If you happen to be in the Baltimore area, there's these 4 bakeries: Herman's, Woodley, Fenwick, and Simon's, that you can go to and get these. Pretty much, they'll probably have them through September, I think it's going to be. But that's pretty much what we're doing. So let's get some stuff together for our coffee. We're going to use the House Nation from Spro, one of my favorite coffees. And of course, we're going to take it, and we're going to need to make 24 grams of that coffee. Let's turn our scale back on. Why is that not working now? Oh, because I have the lid on it. Okay, let's try that again. Let's zoom in a little bit more so you can see better. So what's going on? Anything interesting? Any questions about coffee? Thoughts about coffee? Angers about coffee? Let me know what you think. So 24.1 grams of coffee here. Last night I was on a podcast. I was asked to be a co-host in this podcast called the Below the Belt Show. It's a show about mostly about television, sci-fi, celebrity kind of gossip. And my buddy Al Soto runs it. Really nice guy. He asked me to do one in February, so we did it in February, and I think it turned out fairly well. Actually, I haven't listened to the February episode just because I didn't know about the link or where it was located until just the other day. I probably will listen to it. He said it got a little bit contentious because one of his other main co-hosts is very much one of those guys that's into the whole. I don't know. I guess maybe he's one of those guys that would be considered like a Star Wars. Did they call them Star Wars bros? I don't know. But basically, talking about how I think in that episode he was talking about LGBTQ has infiltrated or something like that into wokeness has infiltrated into sci-fi, and it's like, gosh, if one must really consider wokeness is actually part of sci-fi, like there could be no more woke than a white man kissing a black woman in 1966 on television. But anyway, so here's our coffee. We got it ground, right? And then we're going to get our very, very lovely Monet base for our Benjerong ODZ. Oh man, I know we used this yesterday, but I was thinking maybe because we used it yesterday, we should use it today. But I was like, oh no, we should totally use that. It's too pretty not to use, right? But yesterday we used the Hardy V60 filter. Today we're going to use the origami filter. We're going to use this. Now we're using two different coffees, so I was thinking maybe what we'll do is we'll do like the same coffee over subsequent days, and then just change the filter, right? Change the filter and see if there's any real discernible difference between the different filters on this brewer, right? Okay, so put that in there. And then there. Shake it up so it's nice and flat and even. I'm just waiting for the water to boil, but let's get our scale. Okay, that's tearing out. Good morning to you, Michael. How are you, man? How are things in Houston? I hope things have recovered. My cousin just came in from San Antonio, where she lives. She came here for a week to see her mom. And she was telling me, that Houston, she was in San Antonio. So she said, Houston's crazy. Like she's like, we didn't get it that bad in San Antonio, but she said in Houston, I was like, wow, man, that's crazy. Hope things are well. All right, let's start brewing. Suddenly I feel like these last couple of days, I feel like I don't really have much control. All right, so 46.1 grams, 17 seconds. Like always, we just want to have a nice about 100-gram flow rate per minute. So 93, we're a little bit ahead here. If you remember that yesterday, one of our viewers was like, this capillary action. So if you want to use the osmosis method where you pour just in the center, the capillary action of the water should pull from all of the grounds. Maybe that's true. I feel a little bit better if we're going to wet everything. Encourage more capillary action, I guess you'd say. So 124.4. A minute and 10 seconds. We're going to slow down our pour rate. Same grind settings we did yesterday, 20 on the Brazza Virtuoso. I was listening yesterday as I was heading to a client's place about with a podcast featuring is it Andrew Mack? Is that right? Andre Mac. Andre Mac. I don't know if you know Andre. Andre is a sommelier that has some restaurants and some whatever, and he also has some. So he appears on like Food and Wine YouTube channel. Really interesting guy, knowledgeable about wine, and I thought he had some really interesting comments about some of the things. He was on Chris Kimball's Milk Street podcast, and I thought he had some really interesting things, approaches to the wine that I was thinking maybe we can incorporate some of those into some videos for this channel. Michael says 100 grams per minute. If I can pour slow and steady enough, can that be a continuous pour? Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm only saying really 100 grams per minute because, you know, I'm just breaking it down. If we're pouring 350 grams and we want to finish our brew somewhere between 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes, then I'm just ratioing out in that respect. 100, 100, 100 for the first 3 minutes, and then the last 50 in the last 30, right? So I'm actually not paying that close attention this time, but 245, 239. So we're kind of close, maybe go a little bit faster. Maybe I was going a little bit slow, but all of that is also going to be determined by the grind profile that you're using, right? The grind is providing a measure of resistance to your brewing. And so you kind of want to, see here, we're past 3 minutes and I'm not even at 300. So I should be speeding up instead of talking. So now I've got a little bit, I've pushed farther into it. So it's much more blonding with this foaminess is getting kind of white, and it's probably not going to be the optimal way to brew this, but we're trying to catch up. 3 minutes, 30 seconds, and I'm at 325. Now we'll pour in the center and rely on that capillary action. Go 353.9, there we go, 353. 3 minutes, 43 seconds. We're going to let this fall, and hopefully that won't fall for too long. Just return our water back to the boiling kettle. All right, looks like that's pretty much done now, more or less. So this time we didn't have so much collapsing here of the filter, but we can just take that, pull it out, and then just toss it away, right? Let me go clean this up a little bit. I'm actually quite paranoid about it. I don't want it to break. Or just want to, like I said yesterday about having your first car, you always take like really good care of it, right? Okay, so here it is, our coffee, ready to go. I'll just get out of the way. We got our coffee here, so that's all ready to go. Just over 4 minutes. And then we're going to cut some cake. We're going to cut some of the cake. I don't know why they call it peach cake. It's not, because it's really not necessarily a cake. Like, it's not terribly sweet, but let us cut a slice. Cut that slice out. And then I got a little bit of a peach. There we are. We have a little peach plate here. Here's our slice of peach cake. So as you can see, it's a fairly thin type of cake. It's really more of like a bready tart, like maybe with a little. Let's have a little taste of the dough. Let's see what it's like. Just the dough itself. Like, here's our dough. So the dough is not like, if you try the dough with a crumb, or let's say like a standard like American yellow cake or any kind of like vanilla cake, any basic cake, it's very sweet. This is very unsweet. This is very, comparatively, I would say that it doesn't even have the sweetness of like King's Hawaiian sweetbread, right? It's got a lower sugar content than that. So it's more bready than cakey. Looks like a fruit pizza, says people. Yes, exactly. It really does have that look of a fruit pizza. And that's a great way to look at it. So it's really allowing the sweetness and character of the peaches to come alive on the palate. Now, this one does have a little bit of a apricot glaze, which helps that sweetness a little bit. And it may be something if you're getting peaches that maybe aren't totally sweet, that might be something to do. Or you could use a sprinkling of sugar on the top as you're baking, could give you a little bit more of that caramelization. But let's have a look at it here. We're gonna need some coffee. So let me get our House Nation. Pour that out, looking good. Look at that. How does it compare to? Oh, yeah, that's lovely. A little bit of bitterness, sweetness, body, just good general coffee flavor. Again, like this is the kind of coffee that we produce to be very accessible to people. Something that can be a very easy, everyday drinking kind of coffee. A really easy go-to coffee made of really nice quality beans. All right, so let us cut the slice or piece. So cut a piece. Normally, I would just normally pick it up and bite it, but we're trying to be a little bit more full of decorum here. So as you can see, you just get a little bit of that slice, and you got a cross section here, and that's pretty much it. So just very, very simple. If you notice that this piece here has a pretty large, that's a pretty large slice comparative to, this one is a pretty large slice compared to the others. So this gives you a lot of toothiness, a lot of resistance, a lot of chewiness, really crunchy. The rest are smaller, so it's going to be a little bit more softer, but a nice textural juxtaposition, which I always enjoy, like different textures in foods. Now, these particular peaches are not super sweet, but they're definitely on the ripe. They're definitely ripe, and they're on the kind of maybe more medium sweet with a little bit of tardiness for yellow peaches. But that's the nice thing about this type of baked good, is that it's really about showcasing the fruit rather than anything else. So however your fruit is will be the way that it represents on cake. All right, let's have some more. Might as well have more. All right, just more. Now we'll do with the coffee. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. So there's the light sweetness from the cake. There is the bitterness and contrast with the coffee. Now, if you want something that's a sweeter experience, like this could be one of those times when maybe you might add cream and sugar to this. I think that would only if you wanted a sweeter experience. I don't necessarily want sweeter experiences most of the time, but like I don't think it would be necessarily a bad thing. In some respects, I think it could enhance the experience, depending on your preferences, right? Now, if you're thinking about like you like things that are very sweet, like regular cakes, this is not going to be it. This is a very milder kind of sweetness experience. Really more like you're taking bread and you're putting fruit with your bread, right? Imagine the fruit sando that we had the other day, last week. Imagine the fruit sando with the fruit, the bread, but none of the whipped cream. That's essentially what you're having here. Well, that's pretty much it. The peach cake from Baltimore area. This one's by Simon's Bakery here in Cockeysville, Maryland. A really lovely way to enjoy fresh seasonal fruit. And I think that you could take this kind of recipe and use it with any kind of fruit that you might have wherever you are in the world. Just getting nice, locally grown, fresh, in-season fruit that's really, hopefully you get stuff at the peak of their harvest. So you can really kind of enjoy it in a very simple way that shows off the qualities of the fruit. Actually, I'm going to head to one of the farms today to go visit and see what kind of corns they have. We're in the middle of corn season, and I want to see if I can find, or at least understand, the different varieties of corn that are available in our area. All right, so that's pretty much it for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Glad you're here with me again. Mom, Rusty, Peter, Dan, Michael, good to see all of you guys. Hope you have a wonderful day out there. Back again tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, with more of the coffee Q&A. So if you have any questions or thoughts about videos to come, let me know. We'll put them we'll start to work on them and get them ready for you. All right, so until next time, I hope you have a wonderful one, and see you then.